In this video I'm going to show you how to make a crochet rib beanie similar to this one that you see here. It's a very good beginner's project for crochet, especially if you use bulky yarn. It works up pretty quickly. So I'm going to be using this Color Made Easy yarn by Lion Brand in the color Kombucha. And the great thing about this is you can use any kind of yarn. You just find out what hook size you need from the package on the yarn. This one needs a K, so that's what I'm going to be using here. You can use any size though. Of course, the bulkier the yarn, the bigger the crochet hook, the faster the whole project's going to work up. So this starts out just like any other crochet project with a slip knot. So we make a slip knot and place it on our hook. And then you're going to chain enough chains to equal 14 inches. So there's no set number, it all is just depending on the type of yarn that you're using and the size hook. So I'm just going to start chaining here, and we'll stop when we get to 14 inches. So let's use a rule to measure it here. I've got, let's see, there's 12 inches here. And then looks like we've got a little bit more than 14 inches. We've got about 16 inches. So if you've done extra, just grab a hold of the end and just rip it out until you get it down to 14 inches. And there we go. We're ready to start crocheting. So this entire project, the length that you chained is going to equal the height of the hat. The thing is worked sideways basically and then sewn together. So we'll begin here. The whole thing is done in half double crochets. So to do a half double crochet, ordinarily you're going to work into the third chain from the hook. With this one though, we're not. We're going to go into that second chain from the hook, which is basically the first real stitch here. So you wrap the yarn over, put it through that stitch, pull up a loop, then yarn over again and pull through all 3 loops. That's your half double crochet. And you're just going to do half double crochets down the entire length of this chain. Now when we get to the end, and we have our first row of half double crochets, to start the second row, ordinarily you would chain 2 to start your next row of half double crochets. In this project we're not, we're only going to chain 1, and you're going to do that on the beginning of every single row. So we chain 1 and turn, and then we're going to work into the very first stitch instead of the second stitch like we normally would. And instead of going through the actual stitch, if you turn the work over and look at the top, you see you have that stitch makes a V at the top. There are 2 legs of a V. We're going to do what's called working through the back loop only, crocheting through the back loop only. So to do that, you stick your hook down through the top of the stitch and go under just that back leg of that V. So to do a half double crochet in that, you will yarn over, go down through the top of the stitch, through that back leg of that first stitch there. Pull up your loop and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And this is how you're going to work this entire piece. You'll be doing the whole thing through the back loop only of each stitch. So you yarn over, go down through the top of the stitch, through that back loop, pull up your loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And what this does is it kind of forces the stitch to fold over, and you see you have like a row of knit stitches here, these little neat V's. And this is what creates the ribbing effect that makes the stretchy ribbing. You see you have the row of the V stitches and then this indented part beside it, which gives it that ribbing effect. So you just continue this down the entire row, working through the back loop only of each stitch. And you'll do this until your piece measures 20 or 21 inches. Basically, length that you crochet will be the width of the hat. So however wide you need it to be to fit around your head is how far you'll take it. So then we need to attach this together. We're going to turn this into a tube to fit on our head. To do that, you just fold your piece over. Stick your yarn through the one side, pull up a little stitch. You're doing what's called a slip stitch. So instead of crocheting, you're just going to pull that loop straight through the loop that you had on your hook. And you're going to attach each corresponding stitch of either side together this way. So you hold the pieces together, put it through the one side, then through the other, pull up your loop, and then pull that straight through the loop that's on your hook. And you do this down the entire length of that row to bring those two sides together. Once you get to the end, you've now turned it into a giant tube. So then we need to close up the top to make it into a hat, and what I do is just fasten off and cut my yarn pretty lengthy. I give myself about maybe 18 inches worth of yarn just to make sure I have enough to finish this. So snip it off and pull it through, then turn the work right side out. Place that tail on a yarn needle, and you're going to do what's called a running stitch. You're going to go down through, you're going to sew through each of these stitches on the top edge, basically. So you're going to go down through one stitch, up through the next, and then down through the next one, and you just work that way, alternating all the way around. Down through one, up through the next, down through one, up through the next. Once you've reached your starting point, you simply just pull the yarn and it cinches it up and closes up the top. And then I like to take the needle and kind of go through the top a few times just to make sure that it's pretty secure. Then you put your needle down through the top to pull your yarn into the inside, and then just weave in your ends and hide them on the inside of the hat. Snip it off, and there's your hat. Now to make the pom-pom for the top, I'm using this fuzzy, I think it's another lion brain yarn. It's like a fuzzy looking yarn. And I take a piece of cardboard that is basically the width that I want the pom-pom to end up, and just wrap the yarn around. Now to do this, I wrapped it 40 times around this card. Snipped it off, and then cut yourself another piece of yarn about 8 inches or so that'll be used to tie the pom-pom together. Then carefully pull those loops off of the card, making sure that they stay loops. Then lay them down on the piece that you cut for the tie, and tie them right across the middle. Make sure you tie it pretty secure, a double knot, so that they don't come undone. And then you take your scissors and cut through the top of these loops, so that they no longer become loops, but they become individual threads of the pom-pom. And you can give it a little bit of a haircut if you want to kind of even up those ends. Then to attach it to the hat, I just take the two ends of the tie, put one end on the yarn needle, and put it down through the top of the hat on one side of that top knot. And then take the other one and put it down through the hat on the other side of the knot. And then turn the hat inside out, take those two ends and tie them securely on the inside. And there you go. There's your final product.